Okay, so let's go through the episodes. Decent episode. Though I definitely want to bring up something about these, because, like, 1 through 3. No. 1 through 2. Um, 1 through 2, they have the Young Justice early members, because Artemis and a few others aren't there. They go on their own to a mission to try and prove themselves. They get kidnapped by Candace and Cadmus, basically. The Cadmus workers basically say, just murder them and clone them. People will never know. Yet for some reason, in a later episode, in like episode 25, I think, we find out that Wally is a clone, and that they kept the clone for like 3 years for some reason. I mean, the actual person. But they were willing to kill Robin and Kid Flash and Aqualad just like that. But they kept Kid Flash alive for 3 years. I mean, Red Arrow, Speedy. They kept him alive for 3 years. But they were willing to kill 3 kids, but, oh, 1, we can keep him alive. Sportsmaster, he was pretty cool. And I liked how he was a reoccurring character, because he's not that popular of a character. He got a little bit of spotlight in Stargirl, but he's never been a big character. Yeah, they keep hinting at trying to give Superboy a relationship with Superboy, and they don't really do anything. We finally got something in season 2. I'm on episode 3 right now, but they haven't really done anything with it in season 2. But they tried to do a little bit of it in the very end of season 1, which makes no sense. What else? I actually want to talk about Aqualad. They treat him like shit in this show. They forget about him half the time. When everybody forgets who they are, and Miss Martian remembers everybody but Aqualad. They only remember him once they see him. And then he's abandoned and left to die just so she can save Superboy. Not to mention the fact that people were crying about Artemis and yelling and screaming when she got killed, and there wasn't that much of a reaction when Aqualad was killed. Because there's a later episode where Martian Manhunter puts them in this like dream state as training, and they're just getting murdered and stuff, and there isn't a huge reaction for Aqualad. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, Barif. How much for that one? I really like this episode. Superboy and Icicle Jr. had a good relationship, but nothing really happens with it. They become sort of friends. They share similar pain. And then he ends up kissing Miss Martian, right in front of her when he thinks that's his sister, because they're undercover and she's shapeshifted into a criminal sister. And then nothing really happens with that, so I thought that was kind of stupid. And also about that episode, Hugo Strange doesn't really act like Hugo Strange. At the same time, he kind of does. In the end, he proves that he's a pretty good Hugo Strange. But most of the episode, he just spends himself just saving Amanda Waller for some reason. Hugo Strange is a bit of a coward when it comes to confronting supervillains, when he can't torture them, because he loves experimenting them on finding out why they do what they do. And he just loves that. He loves being in control. But when he's locked behind bars, they threaten to kill Amanda Waller, he just stops and saves her like 3 different times. It didn't really feel like Hugo to me, but at the same time, it kind of does. because that's his boss. So he would try and save her so he doesn't get in trouble. But, he's a weasel. He tries to get out of everything, so it didn't make too much sense to me. This episode, I kind of liked it, but they focused on Joker a bit too much, so I'm glad that this is his only episode. That's another thing I like about Young Justice. Joker is an overused villain. He's a good villain, but they use him way too much. So I like how they only put him in one episode. If you want to see Joker and Young Justice, just watch this episode. But they bring back everybody else, basically. Bane comes again. I don't think Poison Ivy has came again. She didn't come again in Season 1. But she might be in Season 2. It just really takes the spotlight from people. Poison Ivy barely does anything besides complain about her plant at one point, and then she just gets arrested and beat up. Atomic Skull doesn't really do anything. Yeah. Count Vertigo and Black Adam were the ones who did the most, and they barely talked and didn't even do much. Wotan barely did anything. And I like how Vandal Savage is in the show. It didn't even get popular until like a few years ago. So it was pretty cool to see him in the show, because I completely forgot he was in this show. Because I watched this years ago when I was a kid. And watching this, I recognize a lot of familiar faces, like Lobo in Season 2, Episode 1. Zatanna was pretty cool. I like how in Season 2 that she's on the Justice League, but they don't really explain that. Also, a weird thing is that they have Guy Gardner in one episode, just a little cameo. He's there for like 3 seconds to save somebody. And later they pretend like nobody knows him but Jon Stewart and Hal, which doesn't make sense. Not much for this one. Not much for that one. Every adult on the planet. This one was okay. I liked how the whole Shazam. One of the things I didn't like was that nobody knew Shazam was a kid, as we find out in a later episode. They complain about how he lied and never told them. Yet, they don't even react at first. I get how they lost their kids and stuff, but you'd think at least one of them would say something. Because it's a big surprise that he can turn into a kid. I like that episode. That was a cool episode. But, yeah, not much. This is what they put a bunch of people in. And half the people they didn't really talk about. Okay, so Red Arrow, they talked about how they didn't want to reward him for his attitude, but added him anyway without even further discussion. This is a few episodes later. Icon, they didn't talk too much about him. Plastic Man, they didn't talk too much about him besides saying that he's too humorous, and that he makes too many jokes. Adam, the only thing that was really talked about was Shazam said he's too small. And then Batman or somebody said that's the whole point. That makes him useful. Dr. Fate was already in the Justice League, but not officially. And that's about it.